was a camp that they sent people over to?
Yep, from north, south, east, west of Australia.
Gosh.
Okay, we see it.
Hey?
Yeah.
Because this is where I got my writing from reading this and that, so...
And what time was that? What dates were there?
This is the 14th and 15th of January 2012.
Wow.
This has been a holiday island, a prison island that was set up in the 1800s. After Fremantle in Western Australia got too full, they started another prison.
Right. So have you done some research on that prison?
I actually worked over there for 2 years. I didn't know it was as bad as it was. I worked there in 1975, 76 and left in 77. I used to clean out the prison. I lived in the warden's area of... This is called the Lodge in Rottnest Island. Mm-hmm. And I lived in the warden's facility just there, just a little room.
I see.
That was my home for 2 years.
Wow. What did you find there?
Well, I eventually found out it was a prison that had been made up by our mob and by the white mob. And they used to bring them down from all parts of West Australia, and a lot of them died, which I came back last weekend, and after having read this on the plane, I cried in the plane as soon as we were taking off. It felt like I didn't want to leave. My heart was too heavy because this was a place that I had worked at. And the Aboriginal mob, the Noongars, are fighting to stave off a corporate entity that wants to build huge, great big complex on a limestone area that should be sacred ground, just as sacred as Anzac Cove.
And so then people that were fighting there ended up in that prison, or how does that...
Yep, just because they were Aboriginal, just because they stood their stances for pastoralism, against pastoralism, you know, the takeover of West Australia, that they got locked up. Chains, yes.
Wow.
So I wrote this on the plane as I was coming back. My heart was heavy, and I needed to write this, and it only took me 3/4 of an hour to do it. So I'd like to present this.
Yeah, please share it with us.
First time ever.
Please share it with us.
As the sun goes over our beautiful Western Ocean, we will remember them. We will remember, or only imagine, the brutal first contacts that our ancestors had with the invaders of another country. A country that couldn't even look after their own people. A race of people that brutally and savagely took this sacred land away from us. A land that we cared and nurtured just as ourselves. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestors were murdered, raped, tortured and dispossessed of our families, culture and lands. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestors were never asked, as was the mandate from King George III, to seek treaty, settlement with colonisation and the insultant, horrific deprivations that have been occurred over the last 224 years of our people. Yes, we will remember them. There wasn't much sharing going on back then. Our ancestors were killed for land. Our ancestors were killed for trees to take to other countries to build up, overseas countries to build up their towns and institutions. Our ancestors were moved from sacred lands to far, far away places all over Australia and on to other ancestral clans, never to see their families again, let alone their culture and responsibility to the land. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestors could not defend their communities against the guns that they'd never seen before. So many perished. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestors' bodies were dismembered and taken over to other parts of the world to be studied and examined to see just how savage and native we were. Then they were quickly put away into dark spaces, never to see the light of day again. But some are returning to us. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestral women were taken overseas on whaling boats and sealers' boats, and after being sexually abused were often thrown overboard. But some made it to America, as if it never happened. But yes, we will remember them. And our ancestral menfolk were taken hundreds of miles away from families to go and build the new experiment the British were engineering, jails and genocide. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestors were made to build prisons on islands, and there they perished and died from heartache, sadness, hypothermia, malnutrition, tortures, hangings, beatings. No gravestones there to mark their place in the history of the takeover. The war of attrition that was enforced on us to this day by another race of people. Yes, we will remember them. Our ancestors have passed on now, but have passed on the message stick that our mob still have responsibility to the land, responsibilities of the landscapes on top of the land, of the ground as well as what is under the ground. The responsibility to acknowledge we don't own the land, but the land owns us, and if we all don't look after it, or after her, she will not look after us with fresh air and water for food, forests, and all animal life of which all peoples around the world depend on and need to survive. We and our other Indigenous ancestors around the world all have the responsibility to care and nurture this sacred earth, of which there is only one that we can live on. Yes, we will remember them. We will remember all the babies and children that were taken away from their mothers' breasts, and the wailing screams as they were taken hundreds and sometimes thousands of miles away, never to know the love and culture of their loved ones. Yes, we will remember them. Our brothers, sisters, aunts and uncles, cousins and our mothers, our fathers and our grandparents were not given the right, let alone the responsibility, to keep their families together. Many were put into missions all around Australia and told not to talk language or cry for their mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, aunts, uncles and grandparents. Yes, we will remember them. Many women were put into service, domestic and sexual, to stave off the needs of a race of firstly men who thought of us as slaves and sexual possessions to use as they saw fit. And if we didn't succumb to them, it was taken, rape or death, or by having the white babies and living with the consequences. Yes, we will remember them. The injustices of the Crown that was enforced upon our ancestors and to this day, to us, still exist and continue on in imprisonment, deaths in custody, Department of Community Welfare and Services, lack of housing and health, substance abuse of introduced killer drugs, loss of cultural responsibility and interventions, losses of language, loss of ancestral and sacred lands, loss of identity through enforced war and assimilation, lack of monetary gain to support our lands and families against mining, farming, degradation of the remaining forests, and polluters and pollutions of our waterways and oceans so that others can have more. Oh yes, we will remember them that came here 224 years ago. And the Australian political parties that continue the genocide and ecocide of a beautiful country that at one time had 700 plus nations and 600 languages and over, at minimal population of 500,000 people. You see, up until 1967, we were never acknowledged or counted in census or surveys for future policies, or offered economic fortitude to maintain our families and responsibilities to land. Up until 1967, we were never citizens of the land the British named Australia, and who continue to enforce assimilation at a great cost to our sacred First Peoples, nations and lands through mining, farming, pastoral stations and loss of cultural languages and responsibilities to maintain the land for the next generations of all the mob here now and all the new mob coming to our lands. Yes, we will remember our mob and the fight they had on their hands, and hope one day that it doesn't continue. Yes, we will remember them. And let us all get back to all of our responsibilities of loving the land and looking after each other, less greedy and materialistic. We are the survivors, and we are survivors, and will continue on whether we have land, money or families. But please, let us not continue on in the way you have for the next 20 to 15 years, or otherwise there might not be much of Mother Earth or Gaia to save, but she will always save herself. Yes, we will remember. Jude Kelly, 17th of the 1st, 2012. We can't let things keep going on the way they are. We need to change things. We need our attitudes changed. We need education. We need help in the legal system. We need to claim sovereignty. And this is what I've done.
Thank you, Jude.